Light the fuse and hit that 5/4 theme music. It's time for Tom Cruise to strap in for some big set-piece stunts and for people to pull their faces off like the end of a Scooby-Doo cartoon. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is here, and the impossible part is fitting the story in one movie. So, where does part 1 leave us? Was it clever meta-commentary to leap into the cliffhanger by having Ethan Hunt literally jump off a cliff into the final set piece? Probably not. But just like the movie's combination MacGuffin and the foe the Entity, everything was going according to plan.
You don't have a problem with that now, do you?
So what exactly is the plan anyway? And can a MacGuffin really be after itself? Director Chris McQuarrie thinks so. And what could be a more McQuarrie way to do that than to start the movie making us think we're watching Hunt for Red October with latex masks? We're not. The super silent running system on the Sevastopol is a red herring. It's the thing that the program known as the Entity was sent to disable. Having the submarine blow itself up is one way to disable the silent running system.
Basically, yes.
So, what's going on? Well, we get the big info dump on what's going on by the only other person in the movie who seems to know, Director of National Intelligence, Denlinger. Denlinger plays his hand by info dumping on the Entity's operative, Gabriel. The Entity is a large learning artificial intelligence that the United States used to hack systems, like the one on the submarine Sevastopol that had a silent running system that allowed them to be undetectable. The program was supposed to disable the system and make the Sevastopol visible, but it decided that the best way to sabotage the ship's system was to have it destroy itself during the fake attack at the opening of the movie. We saw all that happen, but it didn't tell us why that key was so important. If the Entity is milling about already predicting when Gabriel will get a key and messing with Ethan's head, what does it need the key for? Well, it turns out that the program has been rewriting itself, and the one that exists now is autonomous and mean. The version of the code that sits on the seafloor of the Bering Strait is closer to the original, and that version of the code can be used to control the version that exists now. The guy who was supposed to save the original code on an unconnected hard drive is probably manning a radio tower in Alaska, with that guy from the secure room in the first movie.
Just mail him his clothes.
Regardless of how that happened, the key is for the Sevastopol computer room, where they can get the version before all the patches and take control. And after Denlinger played his hand, Gabriel was the only one who even knew what the key was for and why it was important. And, more importantly, where the Sevastopol currently is. Or he was, until he set up his one-woman butt-kicking machine Paris up to tell Ethan everything. Before we get to the ending, we have to look at what's new and what's old that's new again. Kittridge obviously is a big return from the first movie, along with the White Widow Ilsa Mistopoulos, who's the daughter of the first movie's sub-baddie, or deuteragonist, Max Mistopoulos. These are the only characters calling back that first entry. What's definitely new is the backstory on why each mission has the key phrase,
"Your mission, should you choose to accept it."
It turns out that the IMF gets its agents by finding resourceful but perhaps unscrupulous people who have run out of options and give them a choice: continue to run or join the IMF. If an IMF operative cannot see a clear way through the mission, they're obligated to decline. This is a break from the original series where all of the IMF agents actually had different gigs and were tasked as freelancers by the IMF. Like having a side hustle as a spy. Cinnamon was an actress and model, Rollin was an actor and man of 1,000 faces, Barney owned an electronics company and made their gadgets, and Willie was a competitive weightlifter. Gabriel, though he plays like a villain from an earlier movie, is actually a villain from an earlier life, having been responsible for the sudden demise of one of Ethan's partners, setting him on the path to the IMF. The other new addition is Grace, played by Hayley Atwell. She's just your regular shifty person, good at sleight of hand and picking pockets, which is why Ilsa the White Widow tells her to steal the thing that Ethan's about to steal to get Ethan and Gabriel at the same meeting. Whatever Kittridge's official title is, it appears that he's hands on the IMF because he's giving Ethan the self-destructing messages personally, and blabbing about the IMF to Denlinger, but I don't think he's gonna tell anyone. Ethan had to make an escape. He had stolen the key, which either wasn't part of the Entity's plan, or it wasn't part of the plan that the Entity let Gabriel in on. Gabriel knows that Paris is about to make Ethan one of the only other people who knows what the key does, where to use it, and why. He'll likely meet Ethan on the way to the Bering Strait. Everyone else will do what they normally do: follow Ethan's wake towards whatever's happening. This includes Kittridge, who now has Grace, who is choosing to accept her mission of becoming an Impossible Mission Force operative. Whether that means she's now working with Kittridge or still working for Ethan is likely a push. Kittridge is kind of a jerk, and, like basically everyone, can't be trusted with a program like the Entity, but he's more or less a good guy, in so much as he seeks to use that power to assist his nation. We should probably expect that reaching the Sevastopol is only the beginning of the shenanigans in store for us in Dead Reckoning Part 2. Every director has put a signature stamp on the series. De Palma showed his characteristic command of suspense with the computer room hijack scene that became the iconic set piece for the series. J.J. Abrams didn't open the box once again by never telling us what the MacGuffin in his movie even did. Brad Bird even managed to give us a cute Pixar-ish moment of Ethan and Benji silently arguing via security cams in a prison. And of course, John Woo had a dove fly by after an explosion in Mission Impossible 2, because in John Woo's world, explosions create doves. Wheels within wheels, and it's all been manipulated from the beginning, is pretty fitting for McQuarrie, who first made his name with the usual suspects. By having Gabriel reach so far back into Ethan's past, we might discover that at least some version of the entity has had a hand on the wheel the entire time. Knowing what the recruitment process is for the IMF, the whole double agent problem that persisted through the first 4 movies makes way more sense. If it's just a bunch of con artists and thieves cornered into joining, of course some are gonna self-deal.
We're in the middle of a war and we're on the same side.